Recently, University of Utah staff came down to BYU to teach us some tech commercialization insights, including how you can secure $300,000 in funding for your next big idea and why some inventions succeed and others flop. Stick around for the whole presentation. I'm Dave Brown, the Director of Tech Transfer at BYU. Thanks for coming to our I-Core event. We're really grateful to University of Utah for doing this. So we'll turn the time over to Wan Young Lee to introduce himself and his team. And years ago at BYU, we had an I-Core center. Currently, we don't, but University of Utah does. And fortunately, because of them, we're able to benefit from that. BYU students and faculty can get I-Core grants. So we're fascinated to learn about that. Thank you so much for being here.
My name is Wan Young Lee. I work at the University of Utah Vice President for Research Office. And also, I have some affiliation to chemical engineering department. I have many different missions, try to support all the research activities, mostly focusing on research translation, building your startups, and to make them more successful. And this is a program that is coming from the National Science Foundation. They have a little short disclaimer. So contents here, some of them came from generative AI. So all of us are not in the same office. So Eric Johnson and Amy Graham, they're both in the tech licensing office. So you guys came here, try to figure out what the I-Core training program is. So what is it? It's like a Marine Corps. It's launched by the National Science Foundation as a companion program for SBIRNS teacher. So this is a companion program that try to help people to be successful at the early stage. Most of us in the science field never get the exposure to what it's like being an entrepreneur. So what it's like being a startup person. After NSF created this program, the other agencies started building their own, but they all have the same philosophy and the same objectives, just that they tweak the program to help that in different fields, what they're supporting. So we have NSF and NIH is their own I-Core training program. Courses very similar, but they're slightly different focus on the health sciences and stuff. And Department of Energy also has their own program. Now, after that, 4 other federal agencies created around I-Core training programs as a companion to what's going on. For example, NASA and the Department of Homeland Security, they collaborate with the NSF programs. And DoD has started their own program. So it's an entrepreneur experiential training program for the academy. So that means you're gonna actually do stuff, not just being in the lecture and listening to what the course directors, coaches teach you. And the programs, there are 2 different types of I-Core training programs. One is regional, and they're national programs. In the old days, the I-Core training program used to be individual programs. So BYU had events used to have their I-Core training programs. That all phased out. Now they're trying to put all different programs into different regions. There are multiple regional programs now, as they're called hubs. We're part of Hub West, and we have 11 different institutes part of the Hub West. One is not included, is just University of Houston, so we have 11 institutes part of the Hub West program. So all these hub members share courses, and we help the teams who's participating in these programs, trying to get them together. We support all the teams go through training. And here is what the benefits of this I-Core training program is. So since the inception of in 2011, over 2,500 teams, this is a few years of worth of statistics, 2,500 teams participated. And out of those teams, over around like 1,400 startups we need. And these teams were able to raise collectively about over $3 billion for their startups. So the impact is pretty strong. And so this is just a brief overview. The program is run as cohorts. That means when you apply for this I-Core training program, you're going to have your team along with the other teams and the potentially other startups coming in. And some will be very successful, and some you probably want to learn how they approach things a little differently, aggressive than others. Teams who's participating in the programs will go through 2 different stages. Regional programs, once you finish the regional programs, you can go to the national programs. So what are the differences between the two? So regional programs much easier, and it's gonna have a lot more courses, try to help you to understand how to approach and what kind of things that you want to interview and how to approach that part and what you want to gather during that interview process. The name's kind of strange to learn, but this is how the Hub West come up with. That is a stage 1 program, and Boom is the next stage. So once you finish the Boom, the people who finished and then have the desire and meet all the eligibility criteria can be referred to the national program, which will be actually you're interacting with the coaches from the national programs to NSF directed courses. Whether you matches between the two is going to be the key to understand the needs of the society or the users versus what you thought you would develop. So you can pivot your directions and technology. Yeah, so the method of how this approach is based on the business canvas approach. And so when you're done with the training, you'll get some general idea of what the markets look like, what's your value of your technology versus what's out there. So you'll be on that part with understand. And as you move along to the next stage of program, you get more in-depth knowledge about what you learned. When you start a company, you're going to need serious capital. First thing they're going to ask you about is when you present your ideas and your direction of your technology, how the people are going to use your product. So that is the key benefits. And there are other ancillary benefits, which can be tremendous, mentorship and network. Some of you might think about applying for a federal grant for research purpose. There are mechanisms by 11 different federal agencies, personal businesses. That's called the Small Business Innovation Research Programs. So how can you participate? So like I mentioned about the team. So you will start as a team with 3 elements there: entrepreneur lead, technology lead, and industry mentor. You might not be able to come up with all 3 at the beginning. So entrepreneur lead is the person who knows the technology. So entrepreneur lead is the one who's going to be taking care of most of this research customer discovery part, bringing your team together. So technology lead is the person usually if you're working in the lab. The other component that is quite important is industry mentor. This person is designed to give you advice as an independent person who has no vested interest. So we'll try to help you how to find the industry mentors. Sometimes it can be tricky, so once you finish this regional programs at company, if you're accepted for the national program, you have to come up with the industry mentor. Why do you want to go to the national program? So you get more exposures. So in the national programs, you'll be asked to enlist to have 100 interviews with a 7-week program. So it's much more intense program. And during that time, try to support you, just not phone interviews. You might want to go to the conferences where a lot of potential users might be there. And you get intense, very detailed analysis for your market, going through that national program.
There's 3 main points that I want to bring out about what are you going to learn in one of these. 1, I-Core, as already mentioned, teaches the business model canvas. We're going to show an example of that in the next slide. The primary focus of this program is 1, how to design a value proposition, how to test that value proposition, how to identify customer segments, and customer discovery best practices. So an example, kind of what you asked for, something that we found really useful, was we had an engineer who developed a technology that could very rapidly detect pathogens in water. Their immediate response was, great, every utility, water, treatment plant is really going to care about this. We're going to make a ton of money. They interviewed 5 of them. They realized that these water treatment plants, they use PCR tests. They're incredibly affordable. They have a rigorous process in place to make sure that everything is done correctly. And what they learned was that even if they got the results back faster, it wouldn't change any of their downstream processes. So buying this brand new device, even though the value was you get a result almost immediately, meant nothing to them, right? That was something they did not know going into customer discovery, and that allowed them to quickly pivot. Within 2 weeks, they were able to start targeting another market segment. Another example is, this was one that I actually did. It was a device that would help with a squat position birth. We called about 5 OBGYNs. They all hated the idea. They said, we don't even do that here. Like, we're in control of it. We called 10 birthing centers. They literally asked us to bring it the next day. They were so interested in seeing it. So that really helped us identify what customer segment do we want to go over, target, which also helped a lot, helped us understand kind of the market size that we're going to be able to address. Even if it doesn't work out, what you learn here can be applicable to your next business venture, your next research idea. We had a research team come through. I don't remember what their technology was. It failed pretty quickly, but they really liked this process of customer discovery. And so we met with them 2 months later, where what they had done is they were really frustrated with how zebrafish, which is a very common research tool, how to procure them, how you raise them, you know, what kind of genetic testing you can do with them. So they called and interviewed about 10 different universities, found the biggest pain points that they had, and then they created their own zebrafish product, and they just had a list of people wanting to get their zebrafish from them. And that was all stuff that they had learned from going through a lean canvas model. And then I guess the last example, 3 is not enough, so we'll do 4, was even a few weeks ago, the last cohort that I was a part of, there was someone who was working on creating a startup around, I'll say, continuing education for pilots, around how can they make sure that their performance is always improving, or when they need to be pulled off of a flight because they might, be too tired to do it. And what he had found in the first few weeks was that the language that he used as an academic versus the language that industry used was just completely different. And his whole entire thing was just learning, how do I communicate with industry, which is obviously going to be very important. Like, you wouldn't want to launch a company targeted at industry using academic terms that nobody is going to understand. So there's, regardless of what the ultimate outcome is, going through customer discovery and what we train in iCore is going to be useful for you in the future. Briefly going, for those of you who aren't familiar, this is what the business model canvas looks like. It is a template used to quickly put together a business plan and then iterates through that business plan until you find a functional one. As part of iCore, Zap and Boom, which we kind of introduced as the core regional program, we're just going to focus on this value proposition and customer segment. As you get into more advanced cohorts, you'll hit more of these. There are 5 regional programs that we currently offer. Zap and Boom are 4 of them. Each one requires 10 interviews for a total of 20. If you are associated with the university and you have deep tech, at that point you would be able to apply to nationals. Regional teams, so your pickleball company, you could go through these regional programs, but not being associated to university, you wouldn't be able to go to nationals. You'll notice that there's a lot of similar curriculum through them. So Zap Boom, customer discovery, segment value proposition, 10 interviews. Once you do that, you can go into Boom, which is another 10 interviews, and we're going to be focusing more on how to improve hypothesis design. The Zap is 3 sessions, Boom is 2. How these typically work is the first half is going to be more instruction, and then the second half, depending on the size of the cohort, you're going to break into smaller groups, and you're going to report out on the interviews that you did, what you learned, how it's changing your thinking about maybe what you want to ask next time, or what you think the value proposition is that you have. The other ones that are currently being launched as new regional programs is Launch. This is the 4 sessions. It is all 20 interviews, and you go through all of the curriculum in Zap and Boom, so it is just an accelerated one. So is Ignite. Ignite is 20 interviews with the same curriculum. The difference with Ignite, I have 1 session on here. It's 1 training session, but the total length is dependent. This is done at a conference. So we had, a few years ago in Utah, we had the Supercomputer Conference was at the Salt Palace. So the day before that, we would get together, we'd run through the entire curriculum, and then you would go to the conference to get all of your interviews, and then we would huddle up later in the evening to kind of figure out and discuss, what you learned and how you might approach things differently the next day. And in this one, Research Market, I believe this is currently only being offered by University of Colorado Boulder, though we have ambitions to eventually launch our own. And this one is 25 interviews in 6 sessions, but they're going to go through the entire business model canvas except for revenue. And that's it. That's what you can expect from the cohorts. The QR code that Won-Young shared will take you to a link that will let you sign up. We also have flyers, so you can take them with you. You are not restricted to only taking cohorts through the University of Utah. You can do it through any university as part of Hub West. If you go to the Hub West website, which I believe we linked to, you can see every university, every cohort that they're running and the time that it is. So there's always going to be a cohort that's going to fit your timetable.